Everybody, Harv here. Let's get into our lecture about chapter 16. So, this chapter, ladies and gentlemen, is about contemporary modern European thought and some of the changes that we're going to see with Europeans thinking. Um, this is, I believe, one of our last chapters when it comes to intellectual history. So, um, this chapter really makes me think about our history of European thinking and how it's changed so much in this class. Um, Go back to the very beginning of class when we started in the Renaissance, and then we moved on to the Reformation, then we moved on to the Scientific Revolution, then we moved to the Enlightenment. One of the best ways to study for the AP exam is through themes. And we're kind of reaching the end of one of our themes here, which is thinking. So just kind of look at the trajectory of where we've kind of come and gone in this class when it comes to intellectual history, um, and that will help you study for the AP exam, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to talk about in this chapter contemporary thinking and the birth of contemporary thinking. We're going to be talking about evolution. We're going to be talking about racism. We're going to be talking about the the modern educational thinking, which obviously melds into how humans think. Um, so this chapter really is about modern European thinking and how Europeans are thinking. Okay, um, this is occurring at the same time as many of our new nations developing. And we are in, ladies and gentlemen, the late 1800s, early 1900s. We're in the late 19th century and early 20th century, and a lot is going on. Germany has united, correct? We have just kind of gotten through. We're kind of in the middle of our isms. There is a huge, full-on fledged fight between conservatism, liberalism, and nationalism. The second industrial revolution is in full effect. Imperialism is going on, and again, we are slowly but steadily inching our way towards the cataclysmic event of World War One, where we see Europe just in the world just get annihilated. So a lot is going on at the same time as in this chapter of what we're talking about humans thinking and these changes with thinking. This chapter, ladies and gentlemen, in this period, we're really going to see kind of build off of the Enlightenment, that rationalism, that reason, that empiricism, that observation, that experimentism that was facilitated by our scientific revolution. We're going to see religion really take another huge uh, uh, L to Darwin and his theory of natural selection within the framework of evolution. Um, and so we're going to see some serious changes to how Europeans perceive and view the world. And obviously, one of them is with evolution. Evolution is a game changer, 100%. Again, just like Copernicus's viewpoints, and that's a good synthesis for Copernicus. Darwin, and not just Darwin, but many of the thinkers concerning evolution are really going to create a lot of uncertainty in the world. Uncertainty for Europeans as they, again, are really unsure of their place. They've been led to believe their whole life that humans came from God. But now Darwin is kind of showing this other perspective and this other viewpoint that humans and humanity, may be derived from other organisms. And so it's going to be a very contentious point between, the church and scientists and biologists. And so this is going to, again, provide a lot of uncertainty for humans as they look at the world. One of the big things we see here, ladies and gentlemen, is we are going to see huge advances in reading and education. Think about the history of reading in this class, ladies and gentlemen. We've gone all the way from Gutenberg and the printing press of the Northern Renaissance to Protestants, learning to read the Bible, scientific revolution, And the last time we kind of talked about literacy was our print culture. Well, we're going to see the print culture facilitate a huge reading culture. Now, you might be asking, Harv, what's the difference between a print culture and a reading culture? Well, we're going to see Europeans in reading become a mainstream norm and a norm for all ages, and genders. For the first time, we're going to see little kids learning to read on a much bigger level, and that coincides with education, okay? Elementary school education, which makes sense because we know with child labor laws, kids are getting out of the factories, out of work, and they are going to school. And at school, they are learning to read and write. So we are going to see the majority of Europeans, ladies and gentlemen, um, reading, which is huge. Take a look at some of these figures here, ladies and gentlemen. Great Britain, um, making it compulsory to go to education in the 1870s. France, a little bit later. The German Empire, around the same time. Note, ladies and gentlemen, who's not there. More of our conservative countries, some of our countries that are behind, right? Such as Russia, behind in industry, behind in education, makes sense. Austria-Hungary, the Balkans, Italy, Spain, some of our more conservative countries. So, I mean, take a look at some of our key leaders in the West, Western Europe, being a little bit ahead of the game when it comes to education, therefore being a little bit of ahead of the game when it comes to industry. And that's, again, going to be huge for um, for society. And there's going to be some big impacts from this. So education is changing, and education is being more modern. Education really stressed reading, writing, math. Education was very humanistic in that way. You can tell that education was well-rounded, trying to create well-rounded individuals, which is very much a Renaissance ideal. And we're going to see, ladies and gentlemen, education, as more and more people get educated, that's going to facilitate tons of changes, political changes, economic changes, and social changes, which we'll get into later. Politicians agreed that education was really important. Now, we know, talking about Gladstone, Disraeli, and Bismarck, politicians wanted to get the working class on their side. And, well, obviously a good way to get the working class on your side is to make sure that their kids are safe and getting an education. But also, these liberal and conservative politicians agreed that having an educated populace will have more orderly behavior, socially and politically. It'll lead to a more productive labor force. That's will have benefits to the economy, but also having kids be educated could lead to an important innovation, an important change. That next big thing could come from that little kid, right? That next big change, that next big military weapon, that next big invention that'll make a country so much money. So there was economic benefits for that. As education is becoming more and more compulsory, mandatory, you're going to see a huge demand for teachers, and AKA women. That's going to be a huge job opportunity for women. And I think it's pretty self-explanatory about why women will be called to become our earliest teachers, in a modern setting. Is because, well, taking care of kids considered women's work. So we're going to see some social norms be really melded with economic norms. So we see many of this huge demand for teachers is going to call lots of women into the classroom. And here we go. We see a picture of some kids exercising, and we see the two female teachers leading the class. Now, with the reading culture, we're going to see people reading lots of different things. Kind of similar to the print culture that we talked about. We are going to see a huge demand for newspapers, books, magazines. But because of the Industrial Revolution, we're going to see huge demand for catalogs to buy stuff, and libraries for people to go up and pick up journals, books. all types of literature. Newspapers are going to, even as we see a bigger demand for reading materials, newspapers will become cheaper and cheaper and cheaper and circulated. You're going to have, an evening edition and a morning edition of the newspaper. You're going to see newspapers be a super key medium within the economy. Newspapers are going to be vital for companies to get out their advertisements. Very similar to what TV is today for companies, right? The majority of companies today market on TV. It's very accessible. It's what most Americans use to get their news and right to when they see shows or whatnot. Um, we are going to see advertising be huge in newspapers, and you're going to see a lot of different types of newspapers. Now newspaper, this is very similar to today. You have specific newspapers back then which are going to be have a specific viewpoint. You're going to have your conservative newspaper or your liberal newspaper, right? Very similar to what we have in the media today. You have your conservative news shows like Fox, and you have your very liberal news shows like MSNBC and CNN. So you're going to see specific newspapers that are specialized with a specific viewpoint, especially when it comes to politics. And we're going to see with the print culture evolving and becoming more and more prominent, you're going to see more and more people with different ideas print those ideas, and we're going to see that especially be really prominent with our socialists and communists. And so we're going to see the many radical liberal ideas enter into print and spread. And there's no coincidence that eventually we're going to see our communist revolution spread. Newspapers are going to prosper on sensationalism and scandal, and we still definitely have that today. A good example of that is People magazine and many of those celebrity magazines and TMZ. We're going to see a rise with this reading culture and print culture in early forms of pornography, and that will become a very prominent part of the reading and print culture, pornography. And we're gonna see, as the print culture and this new reading culture evolve. Again, that's gonna kind of at the core of this, and the importance of this is we're gonna see ideas continue to spread, ideas continue to filter throughout Europe, whether it's from science or whether it's social ideas, political ideas like communism, socialism. Ideas are spreading. I mean, and that is something going back to Gutenberg and the printing press, going back to the print culture of the Enlightenment. That is at the key of a print culture and a reading culture is ideas are spreading. One of the big genres that's going to be huge in this time is science fiction, and that's actually one of my favorite personal genres of literature is science fiction. This is a picture from Jules Verne's 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. It's one of my personal favorite books, and this is where Captain Nemo is staring down the giant squid, the Leviathan, this mythical beast, the Kraken, underwater, and in his famous submarine ship, the Nautilus. The print culture is going to start to produce lots and lots of new genres of literature. Let's talk about science in the next lecture.